Greetings, Algo artisans. The banks are finished! Not really, but they are, as we know them, certainly. The banks have become increasingly, well, we're going to say acting a certain way. And we're going to look at a video today from Sky News where a man is limited in his ability to invest and protect his money in a way that he chooses. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. We're going to watch the video and I shall make some comments.
Well, what else is State Daddy up to keep us safe? I'm so glad you asked. Another story that graced our headlines today is that of the Commonwealth Bank refusing to allow a customer to buy $10,000 worth of cryptocurrency. Why? Oh, to keep you safe. We'd hate to see you scammed. We don't want you to fall foul of fraud. That would be terrible. CommBank says they're doing this to protect the customer, placing a 10 grand cap monthly on any customer who wants to spend their money purchasing cryptocurrency instead. Of course, you don't have to be very intelligent to figure out that actually this is very much protecting CommBank as well. But get this, it's not just CommBank. ANZ have done this, Westpac have done this, NAB have done this. Not necessarily a $10,000 cap per month, but they all have their own versions and all in the name of protecting you, the customer, by telling you what you can and can't spend your own hard-earned money on.
Okay, so what this is really about, right, is that banks need depositor funds. This is the real way that it works, right? There are no more reserve requirements for most banks. I don't know how it is in Australia, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same as it is in the US, where reserve requirements are pretty much no longer a thing. And reserves are funds that are in the bank to cover customers coming in to withdraw their funds. So let's just say a bank has $10 million in customer deposits. They don't have to keep $10 million at the bank in case the customers want to come get their money, because they rarely ever do. You know, customers do electronic funds transfers. Customers just leave their money in the bank. However, if all the customers came at the same time to take their money out, banks would be insolvent. They would actually have a liquidity problem where they wouldn't have enough money to cover deposits, right? And it takes a little time to fix that problem. In the world of infinite money printing, they would have to, go to their version of the Fed. I imagine it's, the Bank of Australia, the Royal Bank of Australia, I think is what it is. And that they would have to ask, hey, we need, this many $1 billion. And long story short, that's a big problem. That is obviously a liquidity problem. So what we're looking at is a scenario where they're limiting the money coming out from high net worth individuals, because most people are not buying $10,000 in crypto, right? And they don't have a problem with most people, $100 here, $500 there. But when you have high net worth individuals, they actually comprise a large amount of money in banks, right? Because they have a lot of money, they have a lot of money in banks. And if these individuals were simply to take all of their money and put it into crypto because they no longer have faith in the banks, then it's kind of a catch-22. The banks would actually lose all their deposits. So, and of course the bank would go insolvent, and you would see the banking industry for what it really is, which is pretty much a scam. So that's what we're seeing here, right? We're seeing a limitation of the ability for people to take their money out so the banks can actually stay in business. All right, let's move on here.
Why don't you do that with gambling, since you're so worried about gambling? Say, oh, actually, sorry, Caleb, this is your 10 grand cap on sports bet this month, so we're not allowing you.
Only 10 grand?
To spend it on cryptocurrency, something that, should it go very, very well, would do the jolly banks out of business tomorrow.
But let's be logical here, right? If this is just about protecting people from fraud, then they ought to put a restriction on how many gift cards you can buy, because that is, of course, a common scam thing. They get people to buy Apple gift cards and whatever, so they should be restricting that at the same time. Telstra, Optus, all the telcos should be restricting how many text messages you're able to send, because, of course, that's the major way now that a lot of scams are proliferated. If that's what it was about, if it was all about protection, you would have controls on all of those things. But of course, you don't have controls on all of those things, because it's simply about the bank protecting its own interest and telling you, well, we want the money with us, not over there in the cryptocurrency. Because if it, as you say, if it works, right, and if you want to spend 10 grand, 20 grand, 40 grand, 100 grand, I'm glad you got 100 grand a month to spend on cryptocurrency. If you want to spend your money on that because you believe that is a safer place to keep your money, you should be well within your rights to do so. And we live in a country where the banking sector is heavily protected by the federal government.
Is it possible that both things are true at the same time, are acting entirely in self-interest, and there is a duty of protection to consumers? The ACCC said Australians lost $1.5 billion to investment scams in 2022. I personally know people who have gone to the Commonwealth Bank after they invested in shonky things online.
So here we have the devil's advocate or the banker's advocate or whoever, and I know you got to do fair reporting, so I'm not putting Sky down. They seem to do good work. But the point here is that what he's saying is that shouldn't the banks protect people? And this is really a philosophical question, right? Do we want to depend on somebody else to protect us, or do we want to have that responsibility for ourselves? We have to think about the result of that. What we have to think about is if we continue to have this nanny bank, nanny state telling us what's okay and what's not okay, there are two problems with that. First of all, we'll never learn on our own, right? The only way that people ever learn from scams is people have to become scammed. Less careful people become scammed. They learn from the more careful people, and society learns on its own. Society will become less trustful of certain things. People will learn. But when you have the nanny state kind of telling you what to do and what not to do, then people are going to rely on them as an authority. It's much like a child staying under their parents' wing after they turn 18 years old, right? If they always do what their parents says, they never learn anything on their own. They never actually have life's experience. And then when something does happen, they're going to basically have no street smarts. They're not going to understand what's going on. And that's why somebody has the term street smarts, because they spent time in the street. They understand the way that things really go. And there's no better teacher than experience. And of course, learning and falling on your face is the best way to learn. We've all been scammed, especially if you're like me who's been in crypto. I've been scammed. It happens. You learn. We have to also consider the fact that the nanny state and, these banks and all that, they might not have our best interest at heart. Well, I can tell you for sure, right? These banks have their own interest at heart. Now, it may be that the customer's interest is in their best interest to a certain degree, but what matters to the banks more than anything else is staying solvent. So their motivations behind anything they do are going to be their own business first, and that is for sure. So this all comes down to whether or not we're going to be a fan of personal responsibility. And there comes a time when you just, like, for example, the parent and the child metaphor, you just got to let the kids figure it out on your own. You got to, you've taught them all you can, and then they go out into the world and they either fall or they don't, and you're there to help them if they come for help. And that's just kind of where it's going to be, right? But the problem is that people have been convinced that we have to have some kind of agency to tell us what to do. And our culture does not currently teach responsibility. Our culture teaches blame this, blame that, blame this group of people, blame that group of people. This group of people is why you have problems. And so in a culture where personal responsibility is being not taught, and quite frankly, the opposite of personal responsibility is being taught, well, of course, when something bad happens to you, your knee-jerk reaction is to blame somebody else. And then who better to blame than the government? Hey, you were supposed to protect me. This is a miseducation. The fact that people are going to think that it's some agency's job to protect you, when in reality, that agency's job is to protect themselves. Those agencies, they all have paychecks. And the only way they can continue to get a paycheck is if they keep themselves relevant. Surely, some of them are good people and they want to protect and all that. But in reality, in the end, most people just want to eat. That's a big reason why you can't really trust anybody besides yourself, right? Mutual self-interest. It's not a problem that people have their own survival at heart. That's not a bad thing. And if two different people have their own survival at heart, but they have common goals, they can work together in what is called mutual self-interest. We'll see what they have to say about self-reliance.
If you are stupid enough to sink funds into an investment that turns out not to be viable, it's not the bank's job to protect you from that happening.
I wish the bank had stopped me sending all my account details to that African prince who told me that I'd inherited $25 million. Unfortunately, they let me go ahead with it.
Mac, not their fault.
You were talking about the opt-in, opt-out thing when it comes to vehicles. Why, if you want to invest in cryptocurrency, if they're trying to protect you from a scam, why couldn't you simply say to your bank, I opt out
there isn't
of
that
your
option.
Protections, I indemnify you from any responsibility, let me use my money as I wish.
Just be like, I'm a cryptocurrency person, I'll definitely be needing more than 10 grand per month to sink into this. I opt out. They don't have that option for the very self reason that we just discussed. The idea is not protecting you at all. The idea is controlling how you can spend your money, and you're certainly not taking out of our bank in wads that large. But the irony, of course, undermining all of this is the fact that this just highlights the need for cryptocurrency. Because in cryptocurrency, nobody cares. You can spend your money however you like. There's no cryptocurrency boss bank. There is rules. Why? Because the money is yours and you get to spend it however the heck you want. as you should.
Yeah, she says it all right there. And this whole thing about the banks. We can look also at what happened in Canada with the oh gosh, I don't know what I can say on here without getting in trouble. But let's say these individuals who drove very large vehicles and they had a political disagreement with what was going on, and I think it was 2022, and the leader of their nation, whose name rhymes with Klubo, did some emergency act that their own court has called unconstitutional. I believe that was like last week, the week before, some kind of emergency powers, and they were actually literally froze people's accounts, right? So this just highlights the need for something like crypto, where people have complete control of their own money, and that's for better or for worse, right? In the end, yes, giving people freedom gives them the ability to do things that maybe a group doesn't like, but guess what? That's what freedom is, and in freedom you have your own responsibility, and in the end they're treating us like children, right? That's why it's called the nanny state. So this is going to become a philosophical issue, and I think they said it perfectly here. If you want to do something with your own money and the banks don't want liability, then you can opt out of any kind of lawsuit. You can say, hey, I'm going to spend my money how I want, and anything I do is on me, and we cannot sue you. But of course, this is not the bank's interest, is it? Right now, there are also some kind of more conspiratorial ideas where the banks don't want money going to cryptocurrency because the banks want to, of course, maintain control of your wealth. I think that's not outside of the realm of possibility either. I think the immediate need, though, is to avoid an insolvency issue. And I think that, people right now are starting to learn the value of crypto, just like we described right here, the freedom value of crypto, and also, quite frankly, watching Bitcoin go up. Just watching it go up and watching their value of their dollar or Australian dollar or any other kind of dollar shrink over the years. The dollar has devalued by, I think, over 95% ever since the Federal Reserve was put into place. Even silver and gold, if you look at silver and gold, within an order of magnitude, silver buys the same amount of gas that it used to buy like 80 years ago. I mean, the metals haven't really devalued. It's your currency that has. And so people are catching on to this, especially when we're probably going to come into an era of hyperinflation. We're going to see some pretty crazy things happen with money. And I think that right now the banks know that's coming. And so they're putting these controls in place. It's called capital controls is what it's called. And, this is just a reason to, if you are somebody who wants to get into cryptocurrency, again, I'm not giving any kind of investment advice, but there is kind of a feeling of get it while you can. But again, you got to do your own research and make your own decision on something like that. But at this time, we still have a relative freedom to buy cryptocurrency. It's still pretty much possible. So, I do feel bad for individuals in countries like this where there are much, much tighter rules. Best of luck to them. So come on over to Algo Factory, whether you're trading crypto or even if you're trading in dollars or gold or you're trading in stocks, whatever it is, we help people build their own custom trading plan. So we can help you create the ability to possibly extract money out of the market on a regular basis, and you can take that money and invest it where you wish within the limitations of your bank. AlgoFactory.tech, trade your job, upgrade your life. See you on the next one.